Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Silicon Insider podcast. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good, Mike. Hello.
You're in a different background now. I'm used to equipment and everything else.
It's the end of the day, and I just turn this on and chat with you.
Okay. Well, we got some things to talk about. Let's talk about tariffs first, because we had some big news there that impacted the markets, and I suspect downstream it's really going to affect the electronics industry. And that is Japan signed the deal with the US on tariffs. And I believe they're paying 15%, which has the automaker, as everybody else pleased except the automakers, because they're paying 20% for anything they bring in from Mexico. So I suspect that's going to get modified down somewhere. That was the result of the three nation trade agreement between Canada and Mexico and the United States. So that's all got to be negotiated. But that's a big event. Japan coming on board. They also sweetened the pie with $550 billion worth of payoff money or whatever you want to call it. But it's possible that American farmers will actually be able to sell produce in Japan, and you might even see an American car, on the streets of Tokyo. I don't know if they can get down the streets, but that apparently it was always a sore point that the Japanese always explained it as, well, we make better cars, so we don't really need American cars. I think that's in the ash heap of history now. We may see a few cars in Japan. What do you think of the implications of that?
I mean, I think from the tech perspective, there's still some question marks, and that's really what Silicon Valley is watching. The tariff in general, just to have a figure, and at 15%, a fairly low figure. That's why I think why the stock market is higher, why electronic stocks did well. We also, within days, had the GM news that it lost, what, $1 billion because of tariff costs. So the tariffs are already affecting American automakers in a negative way. And so it's one of these things where President Trump seems to be favoring, and if you want to talk about the AI plan, Silicon Valley really coming through well in a lot of these deals, as is the overall stock market.
Well, let me be cynical and political about this. He got elected in large part because a lot of the unions, at least the rank and file, went with him. And that's a lot of votes, and there's a lot more votes out there than there is in AI. I mean, how many
Right.
how many how many code writers actually vote, and how many of them are there total? So he's going to have to react to that in some way. And yeah,
Yeah. And I think we're already seeing that. A lot of the union workers were thinking tariffs will bring back American manufacturing jobs. Very positive for America, very positive for for America's unions. Ask General Motors that just said it took a cost of $1 billion because of tariffs. How many extra manufacturing jobs were created in America? And granted, a short period of time, but that's also a short period of time to lose $1 billion.
right.
So tariffs, we know, cost money for Americans and American companies. Has it created those jobs that the unions so wanted? I don't know if we've seen them yet.
Yeah, and where's the Democrat Party going out there talking to their old loyal voters at the UAW and all that? I mean, this would seem to me the perfect moment to do that. And I haven't seen anything like it.
Yeah, I just think that the combination of tariff announcements and tariff pauses has caused confusion. That confusion ultimately has been positive for investors and for a lot of businesses that have been able to put these things off. But for the ones that it's already hitting, because people buy cars all the time, it's really been an expensive proposition. And I don't know if it's created the local manufacturing jobs that were hoped.
Right. Okay. Essentially simultaneous to that, the Trump administration announced its AI initiative. I'm still confused exactly what it means. Uh, it means, I guess, the White House is behind AI and they're going to do whatever it takes to stay ahead of the world. But I didn't hear a lot of specifics. Did you?
There were. It's a pretty big bill, and I've been trying to break this down. Some of the specifics appear to be very favorable to Silicon Valley. For example, less government regulation when it comes to building data centers,
Yeah.
less government regulation when it comes to exporting American AI, excuse me, software and hardware. Really good news for the likes of NVIDIA and AMD. In fact, at the bill signing announcement, Jensen Huang was there, and
Yeah,
he was
he pointed him out in the audience, and he was literally front and center. The
Yeah,
first
he stood up and took bows
in his
at a
little
bill
jacket.
signing. Yeah, I mean, how often do you see that? But then again, this is the guy that creating $4 trillion of wealth, so perhaps he's earned that. But this is the thing: you've got a lot of Silicon Valley VCs and AI executives that are helping, that have the president's ear, and this seems to be something that there are some guardrails. I didn't see all that many, some protections, but really a lot of very pro-business uh, parts of this that I think will be applauded by Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I heard some comments that Trump had essentially taken a lot of the guardrails off that were put in place by the Biden administration.
Those were largely right, allowing the states to put in guardrails. And what Trump is trying to do is remove that and say, okay, the states can't individually do this. He is saying it's because, well, it'll get rid of confusion, but I don't know. There are individual states that have very legitimate concerns about AI, about how accurate it is, about how it may prey on children, about how expensive it is, the environmental concerns. These are all things that will eventually get either dealt with or criticized. And I just don't know exactly how much of this bill is going to be seen in the real world.
Did they solve the problem, which might be the limiting factor on all of this, electrical power?
Did they solve the problem of
Yeah,
electrical? I'm going to say no.
I mean, do they come up with any solutions or decisions about putting in infrastructure and all that? Because even Trump said we're going to need twice as much power,
Right.
which is a lot of power in a very short time.
It really is. I have a feeling we're going to see some of that with these deals happening between the big tech companies and nuclear companies, the energy companies. I mean, it's interesting because for a while, if you wanted to play AI in the stock market and there weren't that many public companies, you did it through largely NVIDIA, AMD, a lot of the chip guys. I wonder if energy isn't going to be the next play just because so much of it is going to be needed.
Yeah, I'm sorry about my phone.
That's all right. It's your broker calling.
Is my broker, yeah, on meme stocks. We're gonna get to that in a minute. Uh, okay, well, are we really going to put in place all of the nuclear power? I mean, I know that Alberta right now is rubbing their hands together at the prospect of being a 51st state supplying all the power to the AI industry. But can we actually do this as fast? I mean, AI is going at Moore's law, maybe faster. Putting in place, nuclear power plants and all that is at the speed of how many people, how many plumbers can you hire to put in all the plumbing on these things? Well, we going to lose the race on this? I mean,
I
everybody,
don't know. It's a fair question, but I imagine the power needs will be great no matter where on the globe AI is put into place. So, right, it could be a factor that hampers us if we can't come up with the energy. But also, I mean, gosh, anything that needs this much energy could also be an environmental disaster. Have we thought about that? I mean, we've moved on quickly from wow, crypto uses a lot of energy to AI uses even more. At some point, that comes home to roost on us, and I don't have the solution.
and I haven't heard Chernobyl or Three Mile Island mentioned in the last 2 years. All this headlong rush to, let's get nuclear power back.
Right. Yeah, I shudder to think what. Yeah. What's interesting though about that is the Googles and I think some of the other companies are dealing with these very small reactor type companies, and I don't exactly know how you make those things small, but on a much smaller scale.
Literally in a semi trailer.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's safer or less safe, but it's a source of energy that will be tapped, but I have a feeling we're also going to look into other sources just because the need is going to be that great. And it's happening so quickly. As we know, the timeline for AI is really, really fast.
Okay, one last thing. The president and the head of the Federal Exchange met today in the brand spanking new Taj Mahal-esque $2 billion Fed building. Uh, and Trump apparently teased Powell a lot, and Powell didn't really respond. But it was kind of embarrassing. I mean, this is the way Trump seems to operate. He puts the guy in a very embarrassing situation and then hits him up with other stuff. So here's Powell sitting in this palatial new building, and Trump says, "Well, we got to get the interest rates up." And people are saying, "Are you going to fire him?" Right in front of his, right to his face. And there's a lot of apparent beginnings of mutiny going on within the Federal Reserve among other members of the board, saying, they've been talking for months about getting the interest rates in place properly, and there might be a coup even before Trump, if he does fire Powell.
Which, remember, he doesn't really have the power to do. I mean, it's one thing to be on a construction site, both of them wearing, looking awkward in suits and hard hats. Yeah. And President Trump saying, well, this is how much this costs. And Powell saying, no, actually, this is not how much it costs. And Trump saying, hey, let's lower those interest rates. It was a really awkward exchange. And I was watching it live on CNBC and thinking, is this the art of the deal? This just looks awkward. It looks like a high school play gone wrong where people are forgetting their lines.
Yeah, yeah. And public embarrassment as a tool of doing business. I'm not sure. Anyway, you want to take odds on how long Powell lasts if he just gets pressured out by his other board members or public, anger or whatever?
It's hard to say. I don't know if Trump wins or loses by Powell stepping out early for whatever reason. I think the worst thing that Trump could do would be to put in this shadow Fed chair, because that's just going to be awkward. And that makes it look like a power play by someone who doesn't have the power to actually do what he wants to do, which is A, lower interest rates. That's by an independent Federal Reserve Chairman, or B, get rid of the Federal Reserve Chairman, which he doesn't have the power to do. So that whole shadow thing, I think, is the one really bad move because it makes him look weak. As far as, presidents and Fed chairs have, through the decades,
never gotten along.
Exactly. And then that's part of the whatever of it all. And, Trump is very pro-business. Look at this AI plan. Very much, let's go, let's sell. Of course, he wants interest rates lowered, makes it easier on his business friends. And Chairman Powell is the one who everybody looks to if times are inflationary to say, what are you doing? And if rates are too low, it's hard to fight inflation. And, we saw that just within the last couple of years. We managed to get inflation down without massive job losses, without a recession. It was really textbook well done on his part.
Okay, let's move on. Have you heard about there was growing rumors in the EU. We just heard it from the German representative at the talks on tariffs that the EU's about to sign on any day now.
Sign on.
Meanwhile, Canada says it won't accept a trade deal with the US at any cost.
The tariffs. Yeah. These trade rumors I absolutely ignore because there's no such thing as a deal until there's a deal. These deals take time. And Canada is mad at us. I was recently up there and we checked into an Airbnb on vacation, went to a corner general store, big sign on the front. We no longer sell American products. That's the first thing we saw. And it's like, whoa, okay, here we go. Note to self, don't mention 51st state or tariffs in any casual conversation with the locals.
It was going to be poutine and Labatt's that night.
Exactly. That's why we watched the Stanley Cup. Anyway, these deals are, think about how long we've been talking about a trade deal with Canada and Mexico that, by the way, we had really, really good deals with before we were talking about this for 6 months. The EU, I don't know. I'm not going to react or buy into these things until they happen. And then we find out what's the reaction on the stock market, what's the reaction to local businesses. But until then, it's all bluster, right?
Yes, it's all posing and yeah, and bluffing. Okay, well, we'll see. We may hear in the next week on the EU. With Canada, I don't know. Everybody's digging their feet in. Okay, let's look at the market. Google stock. Uh, they beat their second quarter earnings and they're going all in with AI. And they seem to have actually driven the Nasdaq up to another record close. And the S&P 500 also went. That's we really haven't seen that since Tesla or even back to Intel in the during the dot-com bubble when Intel literally held back the tide of the dot-com bubble bursting for about 6 months. Google is looking mighty good right now.
I think that's the perfect company to bring up because of all the successes with AI, and certainly Meta's super hot, AMD, NVIDIA, some others. People have been saying AI was going to be bad to Google. Remember, they had that awkward thing when their Gemini rolled out and all the, PC stuff, and that was the excuse me, the woke AI and everything that criticized. They really got their act together. How do they make money? Search. Do you need to search if you have AI? Nonetheless, they keep coming around with strong results. They're on their way to being a $2.5 trillion market value. Google somehow manages to still be a standard bearer in Silicon Valley, even though they were sort of looked at as the company that might get hurt by this. But remember, they were also an OG in the AI space, and I think that's paying some dividends, and people still love this company.
Yeah, well, where even though they're probably looking at our private data, they really have been a friendly company all along. They've managed to keep that launch page simple. It's a very friendly company in that respect. So I think we kind of on the side of Google in a lot of ways, even though they're another force of evil in the world.
I'm going to say, if you're worried about data privacy, you're not on the side of Google, but for
But compared to
investors
Facebook,
and
Facebook will just take anything that you have
right.
away from you. But Google doesn't is not quite there. But it's not Apple either. It's not giving you stuff and trying to protect you. They're kind of falling into slots now, how they fit. Um, so Google looks like it has some more running room.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at Google compared to, say, Tesla, Tesla sells fewer cars, doesn't make as much money, but they're like, hey, we've got robo taxis coming sometime in the future, and their stock price stays high. Well, look at Google. Everybody loves Waymo. That Waymo is taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times a day where we live here in the Bay Area. It's expanding. It's very successful. And I don't know that Google is building that into its earnings. But if Tesla is still getting investors because of robo-taxis, well, there should be a premium on Google because of Waymo.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody I know who takes a Waymo car is like, this is really good. It's really nice. I was just sitting at a light behind one yesterday. It has a presence in this town. We're getting used to it. And speaking of Tesla, uh, Elon came out and said, well, I should mention Google went up a percent on the news. Second quarter earnings falling 23% with sales also dropping at Tesla. But they say, and we have a few more quarters of tough times. They're getting hurt because the government support's disappeared in a lot of ways. But they keep saying, well, we got robo-taxi. And they also said, we have autonomous driving almost down. We almost have it perfected. Now, I know people that are convinced that they've already perfected it because one gentleman I know, an entrepreneur, he got into his Tesla Plaid at Long Beach, down by a convention center down there, and he got in the car, took his hands off the wheel, and told it to go to his house in Mountain View. He didn't touch the steering wheel all the way through the LA basin, all the way down the Grapevine, all the way up 5, and all the way down into the Bay Area to Mountain View, into his driveway. never touched the steering wheel. And he said, we all kind of gave up on autonomous driving. It was unpredictable and you couldn't trust it. But Tesla's been continuing to perfect it all these intervening years. And he said, it works. It works perfectly. It anticipated lane changes and exits and all that long before I would have.
I'd hesitate to use the word perfect when talking about autonomous driving or anything close to that. But yeah, the your social media feed is full of people taking their autonomous driving Teslas from one place to another and saying it works great. And that's great. And I think for the most part, it does work. But you have to decide. And I guess when you get into a Waymo, you decide, hey, I'm going to put my life in the hands of this autonomous driving thing and these robo taxis. So it has gotten to a certain level and a very impressive level. And I think Tesla is going to try to replicate some of Waymo's success. But remember, it's still doing it on a much smaller level and not in as many places.
Right. And, in the long run, if it all works, every time we get on an airplane, most of the time we're being flown by an autonomous driver, and we trust it sometimes more than the actual human pilot. So
Sure.
if we get to that point, it'll be a different world. Okay, Intel. Intel is they're laying off those thousands of employees, and they're also shutting down a lot of their international manufacturing sites. And apparently, the new CEO says, no more blank checks. We're going to make this a lean and mean company again. Well, that's what they were, back under Andy Grove. Uh, Intel suddenly matters again, which is weird because you were saying a year ago, who cares about Intel? They're not really on the radar anymore. But thanks to AI and mostly Trump and Biden with their big plans, Intel's kind of a semi-vital company, if not a crucial company right now.
Hard to say. I mean, I don't mean to play devil's advocate to a long-time success story, but they just cut thousands and thousands of workers. Their market capitalization is less than half of AMD, their longtime rival. It's not even at $100 billion. So I don't even know the math to get it to the 4 billion that Nvidia, which used to be in Intel's shadow, is. So to say that Intel is an AI player, I think is a big leap. They'd like to be an AI player. I just don't think they're there yet. Remember, they missed the small chips, they missed phones, they missed mobile. They've just missed every train.
They literally turned left when they should have turned right every
Yeah.
single time. There was talk about turning Intel just into a manufacturer, but if they're going to be cutting back their manufacturing, it seems like that door's closing.
Right. I don't know where they go from here. And neither does Wall Street. I mean, again, this is a company worth less than 100 billion in an industry that is rising into the trillions.
Yeah, I mean, literally, why wait? Why buy facilities, manufacturing facilities from Intel when you can just wait until they shut them down and pick up a fab, for pennies on the dollar? It's a very inexplicable business plan, which is kind of how you describe Intel's strategy for the last 20 years. Okay, um, I have two final things. Meme stocks, they're back. Have you noticed? I mean, they got a different. It's no longer GameStop. It's Krispy Kreme, Kohl's Supermarkets, and GoPro. And all these are the new meme stocks. And I was on the BBC last night, and they said, "What do you think about meme stocks? Did you see them the first time around?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, they're basically they're a speculative play by and a hype play by guys living in their parents' basements, hoping to get rich enough to get their own apartment. And as a word of warning, I go get my coffee every morning at a coffee shop right next to the empty storefront of a GameStop store. That's the end. That's the end fate of meme stocks. And if you go into them, be prepared to lose all your money. Be prepared to maybe be rich for a few nights and then lose all your money.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is I don't think they're back. I just think they never went away. There will always be the speculations, whether it's a meme coin or a meme stock, but buyer beware.
Yeah, buyer beware because there's no there there. You're basing this on a Ponzi scheme of speculation, and there's no inventory that will cover any of this. There's really no customers. I mean, you're floating in the air on the opinions of other people, all of whom you are trying to get ahead of so you can take the money. And that's a bad way to do business. It's a bad way to invest.
Right, especially when all those people you just talked to got in earlier and can get out and make profit while you take the loss.
And isn't that the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, I've been reading this from, I think it's the Business Insider, but no, it's Wired. Silicon Valley AI startups are embracing China's controversial 996 work schedule. Do you know what the 996 work schedule is? Yeah, it's 9 hours a day. You go from 9 to 9. No, it's not 9 hours, it's 12 hours. It's 9 to 9, 6 days a week.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you've seen those videos from China. I knew another entrepreneur who's doing a lot of business over there. And he says, you go by workstations and everybody is asleep because they're so tired. 996 is you get there at 9 o'clock in the morning, you get mostly a half an hour break, and then you go till like 9 at night, and then you come in and do it again on Saturday. And everybody's a zombie. Nobody has any private life, and they're just exhausted. And, Silicon Valley, the people, HP invented flexi time. Come in when you want, leave when you want, blah, blah, blah. And everybody here was talking about with Zoomers, they want a 4-day work week. This is just the absolute antithesis of that world. Do you think that's actually going to, I mean, even if companies force you, yell at you got to do it. Do you really think that Zoomers especially are going to go for this?
No, I don't. So far, they haven't had to. It's a strong economy with lots of jobs, and no one's going to make a young person do that without losing that young person.
Of course, if they give me $750,000 a year as an AI programmer, I might just come in, every other Saturday at least.
Maybe you get one of Zuckerberg's $100 million bonuses. You'll say, yeah, whatever hours. Sure. That's great.
I've been expecting in the mail almost any day that job offer. So we'll see. Anyway, that's it for now, folks. You can see Scott on NBC Bay Area almost every weeknight, but probably not Saturday. And
very good.
You can see him on X and on Facebook. And you can see me, well, only for another week. My TV show, after 4 years on the BBC, is a victim of budget cuts at the BBC. So I'll have more time to prepare for this show.
Sorry about that.
Anyway, we'll talk soon. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.